Hello, my name is Alexey Bykov and this is my talk for the Effective Field Theory course on EDX devoted to effective theory of the low energy quantum gravity. I will start with a brief introduction to the modern theory of the gravity, the general relativity, discuss why we need to quantize it, what obstacles appear on this way and how the effective field theory approach can help. Then I will tell you about a tree level of the perturbative quantum gravity and about one and two loops corrections, and at the end I will make some conclusions and discuss possible applications. Here you can see the main reference describing the main ideology of what I will be talking about. It's lecture notes, quite simple for understanding. I will mention reference for the details during the talk. You can find the whole list in the video description. General relativity is a huge, beautiful, complicated theory, and it will be impossible to present it in intro to a 30-minute talk. Fortunately, indeed we will need only a small piece of it, so if you are not familiar, I hope you will be able to follow after some my remarks. If you know it, then consider this part as notation specification. General relativity is a theory of spacetime geometry, but we will not care too much about geometry now. We will treat it just as some new field theory, and we will introduce it in the way quite similar to the way we introduced gauge field. We will generalize symmetries, in particular symmetries of special relativity. In special relativity, we have global symmetries, coordinate transform preserving the interval, defined using fixed matrix tensor. I will use this signature coinciding with used in our course. Be careful with reference, we use variety of others. So we have the Poincare group parameterized by matrix lambda satisfying this condition and a shift vector. In general relativity, we generalize it drastically, allowing arbitrary coordinate transform, and it's useful to introduce lambda here by generalizing the transformation rule for differentials. But we still want an invariant interval. So the matrix tensor comes to life. It's some new dynamic field now with this transformation law. Like gauge field appears in the allow local gauge transform. And in this case we also have local transform with lambda being almost arbitrary spacetime function. Also, we have to generalize transformation rule for scalars, just trivial rule, vectors behaving like differentials, covectors transforming with the inverse matrix so that their products with vectors will be invariant, and general tensor behaving by definition as a product of vectors and covectors. Generalization is straightforward. We should just use local lambda we have defined. And we can lower and rise indices as we do in special relativity using our matrix tensor with only one difference. To rise indices, we will need contravariant components of the matrix forming the inverse matrix. They generally will not coincide with covariant components. But before going to it, let us ask ourselves why we need quantum theory here at all. Because for ordinary application, classical theory is good enough. We need quantum theory for something like elementary particles, for which gravity is negligible. But if we want to have self-consistent description of the reality, we need to take into account both gravity and quantum properties of the matter field. So, roughly speaking, instead of stress energy we will have some operator, and it cannot be equal to number. We need to quantize left-hand side if right-hand side is quantum. Also, some scientists hope that quantum gravity will remove infinite renormalization. It is motivated speculatively because gravity brings fundamental scale, the Planck scale, and it can be some natural cutoff. But practically we see that quantum gravity seems to be not only non-finite, but even non-renormalizable. Also, there are some problems in general relativity, like singularities that maybe will cured by the quantum correction. And there is one more reason. Maybe it will be useful just as one more example of quantized gauge theory. Maybe some ideas useful in other branches of science will come up. Since we have local transform, we need to pay attention on derivatives in the Lagrangian, again similarly to gauge theories. Partial derivative will not behave like a tensor. We can't make invariant quantities from them. We need covariant derivative with some connection. and this derivative will look differently for different objects. Scalars do not fill local transforms, so it's just a partial derivatives. For vectors, we introduce some connection. Then, using the chain rule for covariant derivative and the fact that such product is scalar, we can derive connections for covectors, and general tensor we differentiate by the chain rule. And I draw your attention to the notation I will use. I will write comma for partial derivative and semicolon for a covariant one. This is quite common, but again be careful, some people follow other conventions. In general relativity, in contrast to Young-Mills theories, connection is not an independent field. It is connected with the matrix. We assume that we can rise and lower indices of vector with covariant derivative. And to do that, we must require zero covariant derivative of the matrix. If we take into account that general relativity deals with so-called torsion-free connections only, that means that antisymmetric part of connection vanishes. This is actually a physical requirement connected with the equivalence principle. We come to unique connection. So we know how to modify terms with derivatives in a Lagrangian to assure invariance. Now we need some terms describing matrix dynamics, and again, similar to gauge theories, we look at commutator of covariant derivatives acting on a vector. It appears to be a tensor. We call it the curvature tensor, and it looks very similar to what we have in Young-Mills theories. It's not so obvious how it looks because the second derivative acts on tensor, not on vector, but it does not affect the result. The curvature tensor has symmetries, some of them are shown here, and it can be easily proved that the commutator acts on a tensor just separately on its index. So we are almost ready to construct the action. It will be a function of scalars, and we can form scalars from the curvature tensor. It is useful to introduce symmetric tensor by contraction of curvature and its full contraction. This is our first scalar. We can also form quadratic in curvature terms and high orders. And here I want to note that I don't need to consider such term because it can be combined with others to form a full derivative. This will be important when we will discuss one-loop corrections. There is one more thing to care about here. Besides scalars, in action there will be integration of the full volume. And full volume is not invariant. It changes by Jacobian. At the same time, metric tensor multiplies by squared inverse matrix, so square root of its determinant will be multiplied by inverse Jacobian. We need minus sign here to avoid negative number under the square root. So we can construct invariant for volume, and this is the most general form of the action. And this is it again. Unusually it starts not from squared curvature or field strength like in Young-Mills theories, but from zero order term. It's not trivial due to this multiplier. The lambda is restricted by cosmology, where it plays a role by upper bound about 10 to minus 48 GeV, so at ordinary energies we should not consider it. So leading term will be linear on the curvature, and also there will be some Lagrangian dependent on scalars formed from other fields. This action leads to the famous Einstein equations. The curvature is equal to the energy momentum defined in this way. And it appears to be the best classical description of the gravity we have now. Important thing here is that the coupling constant is dimensional. It's squared mass, so the quantum theory will be not renormalizable if some miraculous cancellation will not occur. And energy corresponding to this dimensional value is the Planck scale. It's very huge energy, 10 to 19 GeV. And the next order terms will not have such big constant. Next terms will have it in a denominator, so they will be really small at ordinary energies. So we can drop a series taking leading term only, and it will be extremely good approximation in a huge gap between cosmological energies and the Planck scale. And this is the action of the general relativity. With comments I made, we can consider it a zero-order effective theory with power counting energy over Planck energy, and it's sometimes something really small. They are so small that we really have no observation for them. So we have potentially non-renormalizable theory, but even at classical level is an effective field theory. This is first sign that effective quantum field theory is a reasonable thing to do. How we can do it? The first problem we met is essential nonlinearity of the action on the field, the metric tensor. There is a square root of its determinant, so it will be difficult to separate free path and interaction. It can be solved by an expansion, but an expansion around zero metric is meaningless, so we should expand around something that we can call absence of gravity. We can start with Minkowski matrix, so our field is H, and there are infinitesimal gauge transforms for it as a consequence of symmetry we started with, and we can fix them in this way. Then we will have very simple form in Einstein equations. This is just wave equation, where I used convention that indices should be raised and lowered using the background matrix, not the full one. We can build some solutions, for example point mass solution looking like the Newtonian potential and the plane gravity wave. This is linear theory, but we can consider high-order terms that will lead to interaction between gravity waves. And what's the problem? It is well known that there is no direct way to quantum gravity. New approaches like string theory and loop quantum gravity are needed. Here I list as example criticism addressed to perturbative quantum gravity from a point of view of loop quantum gravity. First of all, miracle didn't happen. Perturbative quantum gravity indeed is non-renormalizable. Secondly, we introduced artificial notion, background matrix. This background at least is non-stable under symmetries of general relativity, so we are violated. Also, we neglected all geometric aspects, and finally our expansion is based on assumption that H is small but appears to be dynamically unstable. Well, what effective field theory approach that we are studying can do with that? Firstly, perturbative quantum gravity is renormalizable in effective field theory sense. Secondly, considering low energy physics, we always have natural flat background and small perturbation around it. This background is defined up to infinitesimal transform, but we will use background field method assuming that all results, even after normalization, will be independent of this freedom. We can do anything with the rest conditions, but this is a task for full high energy theory if it is possible. Really, as I already mentioned, the high energy physics becomes important in extremely high energies, so in most cases, if we need quantum gravity at all, we really need effective field theory. So we are constructing an effective field theory. Obviously it will be a bottom-up theory. Let's check main items of it: field, symmetries and power counting. Field is obviously metric tensor, and we should add some meta field, because pure gravity is not so interesting. We haven't seen even classical pure gravity waves yet. We will consider scalar field coupled with gravity only for simplicity. We will also do field redefinition in the following way. That looks natural for metrics and strange for phi, but you'll see why I'm doing it. Power counting will be determined by Planck energy. Here there is an important warning. We should not confuse two different expansions. The expansion driven by power counting, I specified an expansion in powers of h. The last has nothing to do with effective theory. This is just way how we quantize. And now about symmetries. In the beginning we have one symmetry, the coordinate transform, and we can consider infinitesimal version of it. After the redefinition, we have different possibilities to separate it between background and perturbation. We can choose two of them. First doesn't affect background, it is just gauge symmetry of new field H, and as every gauge symmetry it should be fixed. We'll use Fadeev-Popov method for that. But there is another symmetry, the coordinate transform of the background. H transforms here as some tensor, and it appears that so do all terms of expanded action. And this symmetry will be preserved by quantization and by renormalization if we will use dimensional regularization, and the final result will not depend on infinitesimal background transformation, as I already said. Well, let's start doing it. First of all, let's write down leading term of the action expanded in power of h. From this point I use this notation. Background matrix is used to raise and lower indices, and covariant derivative with background connection will be denoted by semicolon with a bar. Zero term is constant for us background field action. Second term is first variation that will obviously vanish if we take on-shell background. Second term is quadratic in quantum fields. We will work with it a lot, and there are other high-order terms. I want to note here that with this definition of h, quadratic term on it have no dimensional coefficients, and high-order terms for each additional h will have an additional power of kappa. And also you can see that every term looks covariant. Now we should fix gauge. There is nothing specific in general relativity. We consider massless theory because we will normalize it later for simplicity. This gauge condition appears to be useful. Here square root of metric times the t is introduced and it looks non-covariant, but that doesn't matter. Important thing is that result gauge fix term and ghost term are covariant. Ghosts are vector fermionic field. I don't want to draw Feynman rules. There are too many of them, infinitely many actually, and corresponding amplitudes sometimes need several lines. But there is an example of a trivial-level computation result. We consider two massive particles. We can of course save mass term if we want, and we assume that spatial momentum is small. The amplitude of such scattering can be presented in such form. Here last multiplier is the external leg normalization, and the rest part is the Fourier transform of the Newtonian potential. G here is of course related to kappa. This is obvious result. We don't really need quantum theory to get it. This is just an example. To achieve real quantum results, we should consider loop diagrams, and as it usually happens, a lot of them will be infinite, so we need counter terms. And this is the point where we'll use the background field method. It's not restricted to quantum gravity. For example, Peskin-Schroeder similar method applied to quantum chromodynamics, so we can be familiar with it. But it becomes crucial idea here, so I will review it. We are considering Lagrangian dependent on set of real fields phi, and we don't care about the transformation nature. Maybe, for example, 4 of them forms vector, 10 symmetric tensor, and 2 complex scalar. We will treat them together as formal multidimensional vector in artificial space composed from spacetime scalars. And we consider small perturbation of this vector phi tilde around the some background value phi bar. Again, action is constant plus first variation, that is 0 on shell, quadratic terms and high order terms. Let us stop on quadratic order now. We can write it using 3 sets of coefficients w, m and n, and using integration by parts we can eliminate anti-symmetric part of w and symmetric part of n. What diagrams will be generated by this Lagrangian? First of all, I want to know that the propagator of the perturbation defined by quadratic term without background field will just coincide with propagator of the original field. And it is obvious that in each term defining vertex, 2 power of field will become perturbation and other will be background. So 2 legs will be quantum fields, other external background fields, and we should sum over all unique possibilities to do that, and no additional multipliers will appear. So let us consider one-loop irreducible diagrams in original and background quantized theories. It is easy to see that we are in one-to-one correspondence. Since one-loop quantum terms are defined by such diagrams, we can calculate them using background field theory. After this matching, we can simplify the background field theory. First of all, we don't care about background fields coming to vertex. We can consider Wm with subtracted 0 background values and n as external fields instead, and substitute the dependence on phi bar at the end. Also, if we are interested in quantum terms only, we can safely remove mass term from the propagator to m vertex, since only finite many such vertices will affect divergence terms. Other will be dominated by high powers of k. As an example that will actually become building block of everything else, we can consider ordinary quantum field theory, which has such form of W. Yang-Mills theories, for example, can be formulated in this way, not quantum gravity. Then the Lagrangian can be rewritten in this way, and this looks exactly like covariant derivatives, so we can formally consider such gauge symmetries of the Lagrangian. And contour Lagrangian should be also symmetric. So we will use dimensional regularization preserving symmetries. Contra Lagrangian appears from one loop integral, so it will be obviously trace of something, and it should be 4-dimensional because only logarithmic divergent integrals affect pole in dimensional regularization. So we have this term with 2 unknown coefficients. We can derive them by explicit calculation of 2 diagrams, for example with these 2. Instead of about 10, we need to consider without this idea. Now we can switch to complex fields. We will need them. Result for them will be achieved if we separate each of them to 2 real fields and use quantum terms for them. we will arrive to such result. There is specific strange property of this term. Quantum term is stable under this transform. We can check it directly looking at diagrams. Instead of m vertex, we will have zm or zm and z minus 1, or zm and 2z minus 1, and so on, and will be summed to just m. This indeed is a reason to consider complex field. In the end, we can return to real ones. Now we are ready to renormalize quantum field theory on background curved space-time in one loop. Lagrangian will have this form. The n and m can depend on background matrix and its derivatives, but we don't care. We can see that Lagrangian is invariant under formal coordinate transformation, treating phis and m as scalars and n as vector. This is not real coordinate transform, this is a trick. So quantum terms must be trace of four-dimensional scalar relative to this transform matrix. There are 16 of them. 10 are curvature-free and can be just matched with flat spacetime contribution. 4 are mixed and they can be derived considering specific metrics. 2 last depends only on metrics. They can be derived from pure gravity considering small perturbation of background around Minkowski spacetime. We benefit a lot from our approach now, since it is not easy to even draw all divergent diagrams. For example, W term is dimensionless and there is no restriction on amount of such vertices. We restricted all terms to 16 and need really calculation only for 2. The specific metric I have announced leads to non-zero curvature and at the same time to Lagrangian that can be transformed to gravity-free using transform we have considered. Unfortunately, with such metrics, there is pure gravity terms combination vanishing up to a full derivative, so we still need explicit calculation for them. But it's quite simple. And here is the result. We can turn back to real fields. Well-known result can be seen from it. If we redefine m in this way, we will eliminate mixed contour terms. So, if the theory was renormalizable in flat spacetime, no non-renormalizable term except pure gravity appears in one loop. Now we can go to real quantum gravity. For that we need to include field H and ghosts. For simplicity we will assume that besides gravity and ghosts there is only a real massless scalar field. This is Lagrangian for these fields. Our idea is to consider all fields as components of the field phi on curved background. To do that we will formally double total amount of fields and form complex fields from them. Obviously we will double counter term, so in the end we should divide it by 2. Then we can do transform to achieve standard form of the kinetic energy, and we can consider all fields as scalar components of phi, and other terms we should aggregate to m and n. There are two things to care about here. First of all, covariant derivatives x at h and eta as a tensor and vector. We want to treat them as scalars. For that we can rewrite it defining covariant derivative with tilde. First derivative will be just partial derivative, as second will contain only one gamma connected with the first derivative index. All our terms will also aggregate in m and n. And also we should not forget about additional minus sign appearing in ghost loops since they are fermionic. We can formally adjust trace definition to formalize that. This is the result. We can see that it vanishes in pure gravity because of equations of motions. This was obvious from the very beginning. There are no other terms, independent terms of suitable dimensionality, and these terms vanish. But if we consider gravity in presence of other fields, that's not zero. Well, we can calculate all one-loop counter terms without actual calculating of all divergent diagrams. What about next orders? It is obvious that if we allow, for example, two vertices with 3 quantum field legs, we will achieve two loops diagram. The question is if it will correspond to one of original theory. The answer is yes, and it can be proven by the following. Let us consider generating functional of all diagrams Z. It can be presented as an exponential of generating functional W for connected diagrams. There is further quite useful but not so widely used step to functional gamma containing only one particle irreducible diagrams by Legendre transform. its argument is phi, not yod. If you by some reason are not familiar with it, this was proven in the second volume of the Weinberg's theory of quantum fields. We can now change variables in this path integral. This change is just shift, no Jacobian needed. We should care about the first term only. And we can come to very natural relation between phi's in the Legendre transforms and at the end of such simple relation between gammas. We can see that if we consider terms in gammas without external quantum legs, vacuum diagrams, that are contained in gamma tilde with phi tilde equal to 0, we will achieve exactly diagrams contained in gamma. So original and background field theories has exactly equal one-particle irreducible diagrams. In particular, counter terms will be equal at all orders. So, for example, a two-loop counter term in pure gravity can be calculated. We need two vertices with free edge lines or 2 with 2. In both cases, we will have multiplier kappa squared. It is minus 2-dimensional, so we need 6-dimensional operator to get full dimensionality 4. After applying all symmetries, removing full derivatives, and using equation of motion, we arrive to only one possible term. So we need to calculate explicitly only one amplitude. It can be done, and this is the result. It does not vanish, and even in pure gravity. This thing cannot be observed to leading Lagrangian, and it will be very strange if starting from some higher order, so all divergences will cancel. So quantum gravity seems to be non-normalizable in traditional sense theory. At the end, I want to discuss application of effective perturbative quantum gravity. Obviously, divergences and counterterms are connected with high-energy physics, so they are not real predictions. We can only use them to make all loop diagrams finite and calculate some quantum corrections. For example, taking into account these 5 diagrams, we can calculate corrections to gravity potential we calculated in the beginning. I will assume that we have two massive fields with different masses. They will be external, so this will not affect our counterterm calculation. Blue lines are gravitons, black solid lines are masses, and the dashed lines is ghost. Actually, we should also take into account other massless field loops. Massive field will be suppressed. This is the result. First correction is just classical due to nonlinearity of general relativity, and second is real quantum correction. We can see that is proportional to the squared length scale over the squared distance, almost always extremely small value. So let's start to make conclusions. We have constructed low energy limit of quantum gravity using the effective field theory approach and renormalized it as effective theory. It seems to be non-renormalizable in traditional sense. It's possible to calculate quantum corrections for the gravity potential, and they are extremely small as well as counter terms, except Paul's multiplier, of course. This is more or less academic exercise. What more realistic applications are possible? There are some ideas from main reference, like attempt to consider very early universe, occur singularities, and test variety of speculative suggestions being discussed, like gravity constant variation. Also, as an example of modern works using perturbative quantum gravity, I can mention algebraic approach to the quantum gravity, for example, in these two recent works. They are not direct application of what we are discussed here, but they use the fact that perturbative or linearized quantum field theory can be considered as an effective field theory and don't care about non-normalizability. In the first authors construct manifestly background-independent and covariant algebraic quantum gravity based on perturbative expansion. In the second paper, vacuum-like states and observables using techniques developed for quantum field theories and curved space-time were constructed for linearized quantum gravity. So you can see that this approach is something alive. That's all. Thank you very much for your attention.